Okay, a tale of two teams. Rutgers basketball loses to number 20 Texas A&M 81-77, and Rutgers football actually dominates against Michigan State in East Lansing, Michigan. I think Rutgers football and Greg Schiano found the secret sauce to playing dominant Big Ten football. Let's get to it.
What is it tonight? Please just tell me what the hell.
Okay, so on a day where we had a split decision, things were looking good yesterday afternoon for a Rutgers basketball win, up 9 points in the second half against Texas A&M. It was not to be, and we'll touch on that a little bit later at the end of the video. Rutgers football dominates. 41-14 at East Lansing, Michigan, against Michigan State. We found the secret sauce for Greg Schiano and Rutgers football to play dominating football. And it's this: 20-degree weather and snow. This is the perfect scenario for Greg Schiano, because then Rutgers can do what they want to do, and that's run the ball whole game. And then we did that effectively to come away with a dominating 41-14 win, which is probably the most dominant Big Ten win that we've had. Some might point to that Indiana win. When was it? 21-22, whenever it was. It's 38-3, 38-3, I think 38-6. But that Indiana team was bad. They were 2-10. This Michigan State team is much better, much more talented, and had a killer schedule and played competitively in some of those top-ranked games. Nonetheless, after an all-time loss last week in the last seconds against Illinois, Rutgers coaching staff and players bounced back for a really good win. Coach mentioned in the post-game press conference about how this group, both the players and the coaches, were the most mentally tough he's ever had. And you had to be, right? You're 4-0. You go into Big Ten play. You lose 4 in a row. You lose a bunch of guys. Now you're scrambling. You're trying to substitute in and out. You're trying to find the secret sauce to get the right combinations together. And it's just not working. You win a couple in a row in the Big Ten. Now you're 6-4 and a chance to go 7-4. And you have an inexplicable lapse and breakdown in that 38-31 loss to Illinois. Nonetheless, a lot of fans and a lot of the writers and podcasters surrounding the Rutgers program felt that this was not going to be a good game for Rutgers. We have nothing to play for. It's like tanking in the NFL. I can't believe how many fans want their teams to lose. I mean, for what? The crapshoot that's the NFL draft, where 70% of top pick quarterbacks don't make it. Nonetheless, Rutgers bounced back. I felt on paper we were just better than Michigan State. Yes, Michigan State had a tougher schedule, but you can just see how we were able to make plays in certain situations and in certain circumstances that Michigan State wasn't very good at. So let's get to it. This day was all about and should be and ended the regular season for Rutgers football and Rutgers seniors the way it should be. And that's with Kyle. This game was kind of, like my buddy said, was kind of made for him. He had 32 rushes, 129 yards, almost 4.5 yards per carry, and a touchdown. I had to say, when this game started off with Michigan State moving down the field like a hot knife through butter, with K'Ron Lynch-Adams, 2 plays, he had 42 yards, and then Nick Carter with a 26-yard run, whatever it was. It was like, oh boy, here it goes. Aiden Childs who kind of struggles as a pocket passer, and we've talked about how he's more comfortable and accurate when he's flushed out of the pocket, sitting back there, completing passes downfield. And I just thought, oh boy, this really is going to be one of those games that people think it might be, where we just roll over. Thankfully, Kirk Sherrock in the offense the past several weeks has figured it out. We come storming back to tie the game. And from then on, actually, Michigan State, they move the ball again. They get down to the 6-yard line, and they get a 4th down stop. We'll get to that in a second. This game was one that, even though we're now 7-5 instead of 6-6 in the regular season, it's an important game. We saw how last year, where we took the momentum of getting that bowl bid, the Pinstripe Bowl, and taking that against a good Miami team. Yes, a lot of guys were missing, but we had a lot of guys hurt, yada, yada, yada. That's the way it goes. And we beat Miami, and we looked pretty good doing it. It wasn't some fluke. It wasn't like we were totally outplayed and, we pulled it out. We beat a good Miami team. And you can take that momentum both on the field, in recruiting, and the publicity that you get from the media to help develop the program and take the next step. Would it have been nice if we won last week against Illinois? And we should have, and we wound up 8-4 instead of 7-5, and then go and win a bowl game. Now you're 9-4 in the Big Ten with a bowl win. That kind of stuff is invaluable. Nonetheless, where the game turned, the momentum turned, in my eyes at least, yesterday, was with the defense. And I'm really surprised about that. We talked about in the preview how Michigan State's offense is going to center around Aiden Childs making plays, being flushed out, mobile quarterback, athletic quarterback. The running game, with ex-Rutgers guy, Cameron Lynch-Adams, and Nick Carter, was okay, but they really don't average a lot per carry, and they don't really roll up a lot of yards. So when on that first drive, when we were just getting gashed, I was like, oh boy, here it is, my worst nightmare every week. We're an average running back duo or room or running back is like gashing us, and that was not a good sign. So now it's 4th and 1, I think, around the 6-yard line, and we're up, I believe 10-7 at the time, and I'll be honest, I had no confidence in the defense making a stop, and they did, and it was Jabome making the big stop. He's come back after a midsection of the season where he was just not effective, and he's made a bit of a comeback, and he made a play, I would argue, the play of the game for the defense, at least yesterday. Kosh Sanders made some plays yesterday. He kind of got called on a ticky-tack interference call. It's amazing how refs can see the ticky-tack stuff, but the blatant stuff they often miss. And yesterday, once again, we were missing a lot of guys. And you have to beware about, using that as an excuse. Although it has an in-game reality, everybody's missing guys. Michigan State's missing, half their secondary. But Desmond Igmanosin was out. Aaron Lewis, another, a bad injury. Look again, a freak accident injury during the week. Eric Rogers was out. Wesley Bailey is out. Abram White, we know, was out. So we were missing a bunch of guys. And my complaint and criticism a lot of the time is revolved around other teams somehow managed to win this game. We saw how USC was missing their entire secondary, and they handle us fairly easily. You have to be able to play under those conditions last week kind of hurt us. We had a true freshman on the field on that 4th and 13 from the 40. And on that play, we just got beat. But this is a good win by the coaching staff and the team and the players and the seniors, because things didn't go perfectly. You're missing a bunch of guys. It's 23 degrees. It's snowing. And you played really well and you dominated. After that first Michigan State score, they didn't score until, I believe, 7:21 left in the game. That's a good job. Yes, Michigan State isn't, a high-flying offense. Legitimate Big Ten team with Big Ten talent and a good coach. I watched Michigan State some this year, and against that game in Boston College, I should have remembered at the time when I said, I had no faith in us stopping Michigan State on 4th and 1 at the 6. They kind of had that trouble against Boston College as well. They were down near the goal line and didn't execute. And I remembered that yesterday after the game was over. So good job by Rutgers defense, who for the rest of the game, I think they only allowed total for the game. After that first drive where they just went right down the field, they only wound up with 250 yards and 2 touchdowns. So that was a good job. Here's the other thing that we turned the table on yesterday. When we come out in the second half, we're always pretty flat. We don't do well. I don't know what it is about the third quarter. And I said this in my preview. Michigan State is also not good in the third quarter and in the second half. They start off games against ranked competition, and they've been playing pretty well against Michigan. But they, defensive active, but they, once the second half starts, that's when they lose traction and they wind up losing the game. We come out in the second half, we drive 75 yards, 7.5-minute drive. That was the perfect elixir for us to sort of finish this game off, put it away, control the pace of the game. We control the game. Time of possession, we had over 35 minutes. Michigan State had it for about 24. And so that's when I kind of knew, okay, this isn't going to be one of those games where Michigan State, Aiden Childs makes some plays and keeps them in the game. We talked about in the preview about things we had to do. And this is kind of, it wasn't talked about a lot yesterday. But because of Michigan State's inability to turn the ball over and get sacks, Rutgers also has the same issue. Their pass defense was not great, so I felt we had to move the ball through the passing game with Ethan, in addition to being able to run the ball, which against Michigan State's stout run defense would be a challenge. But Ethan yesterday didn't have gaudy stats. 13 to 22, 157 yards and a touchdown. But he made a lot of big third down passes. I think we were 7 for 13 on third down yesterday. Yes, we had a lot of good runs late. But he was making passes in the cold and the wind and the snow to keep the chains moving and moving the ball. And by the way, nobody's talking about this guy, and we should. He had a rough start to the season. At one point, I don't know where he is now, he was only 67% on field goals. Jai Patel, 4 field goals. After the controversy last week of calling timeout when Michigan State was attempting a 58-yard field goal in the cold and the wind, I highlighted the difference between their kicker, who was kicking in warm-ups, and the balls were getting pushed away, pushed to the left, pushed up. He was kicking, his trajectory on kicking the ball was too high. Jai Patel, on the other hand, was hitting his kicks by hitting line drives that cut through the wind, and he did exactly the same thing yesterday. He was hitting low line drives that cut through the wind and the snow. So good job by Jai, including, I think it was a 42, 43-yarder in the wind and the snow, which is not an easy task. Good on him. Good on Ethan for having a very underrated but effective game in running the offense. And, of course, Kyle had his 129 yards. We're going to, I'd have to say, in recent Rutgers history, he's an all-time Scarlet Knight. Antoine Raymond looks to be the heir apparent. He was getting the ball more, especially as the game wore on, and he kind of looks like a mini-me of Kyle. 9 rushes, 71 yards, almost 8 yards a pop, 2 touchdowns. Looks like he was enjoying the cold and the snow as well. Ian Strong, his development continues. 4 catches, 55 yards, just under 14 per catch, and a touchdown. Daimir had 4 for 48. KJ Duff, 4 for 21. It wasn't going to be a big passing game because of the conditions. Eden Childs was 13 of 24, 150. And an interception. Last play on offense for Michigan State threw an interception to Bo Mascow. So, overall, a really good performance on offense, running the ball in the weather. Ethan making the plays he had to make in the passing game. Not making mistakes. We're really good at not making mistakes. We talked about that in the preview, how Michigan State is prone to get a lot of penalties. And they don't get turnovers, so don't make this the game that you turn the ball over and give them an opportunity to win. And we did a good job with that. We only had 3 penalties for 20 yards, and Michigan State, they had 7 penalties for 70 yards, including a couple in critical situations. But here's one statistic that will tell you all you needed to know about how well we did yesterday. Red zone offense, and we're one of the worst in the country. We were 100 and something, like 72%. 7 for 7 yesterday. You heard that right, 7 for 7. Big reason why we won. Once we got down there, we scored. The other thing was that Michigan State was not a great red zone offense. They were 1 for 2 yesterday, but the thing is, if you don't let them get there, then they don't have opportunities to try and execute. So we did a good job there. Goal to go, we were 4 for 4 in goal to go situations. Michigan State was 1 for 2. We ran 70 plays. Michigan State had 45, so we controlled the pace of the game, which if Greg Schiano had his druthers, he's probably praying for a bowl game in the cold and the snow. The upper Midwest, the Northeast, they're getting pounded by snow, lake effect snow, 3 feet of snow. So I think that's Greg Schiano weather. Nonetheless, really good game. This sets the tone going forward to the bowl game and for next year. And, Coach Schiano loves this break because you get a chance to heal. You get a chance to practice and get your reps and get ready for a bowl game, which when he prepares, he's pretty good at. That's just how, so good job after killing them last week, rightfully so. You didn't roll over in this game, and quite frankly, a lot of people thought you would. And Mike, excuse me, Mike from the Night Report got it right. I think he was like one of the only guys that picked, in the Rutgers media, Rutgers podcast community, that picked Rutgers to win. And he felt kind of sheepish about it, but he just felt that, this is a game that, we had to get the bad taste out of our mouth from last week. Others thought, well, this is a momentum that you carry into the next game and that we would roll over. He got it right. Congratulations to him. Basketball. If you would have started today thinking that the one team that would have won and dominated yesterday would have been Rutgers football, Rutgers basketball, you would have gotten it wrong. Rutgers basketball, after leading, they were behind in the first half. They come storming out of the second half. They're up by 9 points. They give it up in the end, and they lose 81-77 to number 20 Texas A&M. A couple of the same bugaboos came back to haunt us. One of them didn't, But once again, it was the Ace and Dylan show. Ace had a double-double. I think it was his second one. 24 points, 10 rebounds. Dylan, maybe only the first or second game he didn't score 20 points. It was 6 for 20 shooting, 18 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. Jeremiah Williams. I like this guy. 20 points, 7 of 8 from the field. But once again, what hurt us was 3 guys taking care of all the scoring. I mean, the bench, after being outscored 38-6 by Alabama, had 11 points yesterday. P.J. Hayes in a rut. We got to get him into the flow, getting him open looks. Lathan, a little bit of a bounce back after, I think he had 6 points and 2 points, had 8 points yesterday. But the bench only had 11 points. You can't run with a Tom Thibodeau rotation where only your starters are getting the points and you're not getting anything out of your bench. I'm not sure what's going on with that, but that's something we're going to have to fix. I'm going to have to take a look at and work on. But once again, third game in a row, 3-point shooting. Absolutely horrendous. We're reverting to last year. 6 for 26, 23%. The only thing that saved us in that way was Texas A&M. They were 2 for 15, 13%. And this is the first time, I think that was the least amount of threes taken against us since Wagner attempted 16. So we had the advantage there, and we had the advantage, get ready, in rebounds. 42-35. We still lost. We weren't getting production out of the bench. We weren't getting production out of our 3-point game. And we faded down the stretch. We're 5-3 now. And I'm not going to sound the alarms because I always thought that this team was a team that people loved because of its recruiting and the marketing and the spotlight. But as I've said 1,000 times, you have to execute on the court. How are we going to pull all those pieces together? And for the record, I don't think it's a matter of cohesion and gelling together as a team. You have to defend in the paint, defend the 3, hit your shots. By the way, our foul shooting, that's one area where we're doing better. Foul shooting is definitely improving. We're in the low 70s. And, boy, if we hit 75%, I think the past, I don't know how many years we were in the mid to upper 60s in foul shooting. Got to get the fundamentals right. You got to rebound. You got to defend the paint, defend the 3. And you got to hit your free throws. And you have to do a better job at hitting the 3-pointers. We're 5-3 now. This is, I think people... when football lost 4 in a row, they were like, okay, let's focus on basketball now. They'll get the job done for us. I never really saw that. What particularly, kind of discerning to me is, we're going to have to go on a run where we win like 6 in a row. If we don't make the tournament, or we're in the play-in game with 2 of the top 5 players, recruits, and then they take off. I mean, where does that leave us? That was always my big picture thoughts. We have to develop a style and a play in a modern style NCAA basketball offense and be able to meld that to what we actually want to do, like we've done in the past, play defense and rebound. To me, there's no difference losing to Alabama 95-90 than losing to Illinois 55-51. They're both the same to me. Yeah, it's a little more exciting. You can talk about Dylan, talk about Ace. Hey, look at us. Look what we got. But you are what your record says you are, and you're 5-3. So hopefully things start to turn around and we can start to take care of more fundamentals when it comes to basketball. And wish the team luck. Everybody enjoy the rest of your weekend. Let's give it up for Rutgers football. Greg Schiano Rutgers football team, especially the seniors, for taking a chance on a moribund program. And we'll see you the next time. Oh yeah, gotta celebrate. We have to celebrate with Eric LeGrand's single barrel bourbon released early in November. Everybody cheers.